Good afternoon. Good afternoon to everyone. Grace, favor, and protection to each and every one of you, family. Glad to see you today. It's a wonderful Wednesday this afternoon. Hope everybody's day is doing well. My name is Malachi Love with Anointed Minds, Holistic Health and Wellness. And I just hope everybody's doing okay today. Just wanted to come on for a few minutes just to talk to you today about the family structure. Family structure. When we think about the family and how meaningful that is, it's, uh, it's the centerpiece of everything. The family structure, the family is the most important entity in the world. It's the most important entity in the world. It shapes everything. It's the centerpiece of everything. As a matter of fact, it's the first entity ever created. Before anything else was created, family was created. So when you really think about the family and the family dynamic, um, that's the centerpiece. That's what makes everything what it is. It makes or breaks everything. It's the foundation of everything. Whether you like what you see, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, when you walk out of your house every day, some shape, form, or fashion, the family structure, the family dynamic has something to do with what you see. It's the foundation. And if anyone knows anything about building, uh, contract work, construction work, if you know anything about building, you know that when there's an issue with a certain floor, you can repair that floor. You can fix that floor. Whatever's going on with that floor, no matter how, if it has one floor, two floors, or 30, you can fix that. But everyone knows if there's anything wrong with that foundation at all, even if it has the smallest crack in it, that foundation says that you have to condemn that building. There's nothing you can do for that building if there's something wrong with the foundation. So the foundation is everything. And when you're building something, you can tell how high you want to build by how deep you dig. How deep you dig into the ground speaks volumes of how high you're attempting to build that building. So truly the foundation sets the stage for everything. And looking here in 2020, um, it's no, it's obvious that the family structure, the family dynamic is so different than it was just a few decades ago. Even when I was young, when I was a kid, the family then when I was growing up and the family now, they're, they're like night and day. It's two different family structures. And a lot of that has to do with, the media and socialism and all of that. Um, but I think we can all agree that family is not what it used to be. All the cliches that we say today, blood is thicker than water, you know. Yeah, that may have been true 30, 40 years ago, but today that's not true. That's just a saying. And if you look at our upbringings and our different upbringings, I don't care if you're male, female, black, white, rich, poor, uh, your gender, your race, your religion, Christian, Muslim, atheist, no matter what it is, we all have different backgrounds, and our family, the way we grew up, has the greatest influence on us. It has the greatest influence because that's where we spent most of our years growing up. And as a child, children are very influential. I don't care if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We're very influential as children. So while your mind and your brain is growing and your mentality is functioning, your family has the greatest influence on you and what you believe and how you believe. So when we get older, a lot of those ways, even though we leave the house at different ages. I left at 18. Somebody may have left at 14 or 13, and someone else may still be there, even though you're in your 30s. So we leave the house at different times, but the majority of what we learned or what we got while we were there, we take with us in our adulthood. And more than likely, whether it's on purpose or even by accident. When we start to make families or have families of our own, we get married and have kids of our own. A lot of the things we give our children, we got from our family when we were younger. So whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, the cycle continues, whether in a good or bad way. And a lot of times that has a lot to do with how we function in society. You know, the way you were brought up is completely different than the way I was brought up. And then because it is different, we tend to argue of who was brought up correctly or incorrectly. If somebody disagrees with how we were brought up, we say that they were wrong or that was bad. But how do we know if we were brought up right or bad? And if I could be just transparent for a moment and just talk about my upbringing. My mother and father got divorced when I was 3 years old, and my mother moved me to California. And that's where most of my childhood was spent in the Bay Area, Oakland, San Francisco, Berkeley, California. And then when I was 8 years old, my brother came along. So here this strong woman is trying to do she best she could, raising two sons on her own in California. And for the majority of that time, we were homeless. We were homeless to the point of actually sleeping in bus stations, sleeping in abandoned parts of hospitals where it was no longer open. We were homeless. And when we weren't sleeping outside or, in those places, every now and then we were able to get a homeless shelter. But she still went to work. We still went to school. But life was difficult from an economic, financial standpoint. It was very difficult. And then, because of the struggle and the fact that she got homesick, she's from Brookhaven. She's from a little town in Mississippi called Brookhaven, Mississippi. So she got homesick and wanted to come back to Mississippi. And then so I went to high school at one of the greatest high schools ever in Jim Hill High School in Mississippi, to all my Jim Hill alumni on this call. But for the growing up part, my childhood was very difficult. It was a struggle. But you couldn't tell me that because we had each other. And I remember one day when I was in high school, I was watching a commercial on TV and they were talking about trust funds and having like mutual funds and having a trust for your kids. And I remember asking my mom about it one day, and she said, "Well, baby, we don't have a trust fund. You don't have a trust fund because we're kind of poor." And it was on that day that my mom told me that we were poor, that I didn't even know that we were before then, because even though we had that financial struggle, we had love between the three of us. Yeah, we slept on the street. Yeah, we slept in abandoned hospitals and we slept in, different places. We slept in shelters, but there was so much love in that relationship between me, her, and my brother that I didn't even know we were poor. A couple of kids would tease me because I only had two pair of jeans, so if I wasted some mustard or ketchup on my jeans as a kid, they could tell that I had those pants on yesterday. But I still didn't know I was poor because of the amount of love we had. And as I got older, I searched for that teamwork when I left to go to college, and I realized that the world was not like I thought it was growing up. And to me, that was a good thing to have teamwork and have a team to depend on. And then when I got older, I was awakened to realize how much individuality there was in the world. I was raised to love. I had love around me, but there were other people more well off financially than I was that were still missing that component in their house. They had money. They had all the fancy things. Their mother and father could pay for this and that, but they didn't have the necessity of love. So my way of growing up was completely different from another classmate. You know, I grew up. I was taught to share, to where someone else may have been taught to get in where you fit in, or get them before they get you. We have a lot of different ways that we were brought up and influenced by the family dynamic. And so that has a lot to do with what we look forward to when we get older. Like I said, I grew up with one parent home. My father still lived in Mississippi. I lived in California. But you may have had both parents there. And even though you had both parents, Maybe they were both workaholics and they cared about their job, and you were left home with siblings or worse, by yourself. And so you grew up in front of the television. Maybe your parents were physically there, but emotionally and mentally they weren't there. That played a huge impact on your emotional and mental well being to where you missed a key element of what you needed for your nourishment growing up. You may have been in a situation where your mother and father were there, but they were very abusive toward each other. They didn't directly abuse you, but because you were in that environment indirectly, that had a huge impact on your mental stability and your emotional stability growing up. Or maybe they were addicted. Maybe your parents were addicted to different things, and therefore they pushed you off to the side. It could be a various myriad of differences of reasons what happened with our growing up that shaped who we are today. And I noticed growing, in the profession that kids want to talk. There are so many kids, whether you be young adults, 21, 20, 19, 18, whether you be a teenager, 13, 14, or whether you could be an 8 or 9 year old kid, even young as 5. You're dealing with these different things and you want to express, but there's no one to express those things to. Having the need to talk and express and not having anyone to talk to or express to, that shapes you as well. Or maybe you were one of those persons and you grew up in a house where you had a lot to say, but your mother and father and your siblings shut you down and they did not allow you to speak, or they did not care about what it was that you had to say. Maybe you were silenced and you felt like what you had to say, they showed you it was unimportant. So you became closed up. You became closed in. You grew silent because you didn't think that anyone would ever value what was on your heart and what you had to say. That also shapes us to who we are today. And we just grow up with all these different things that silently hurt us, that silently damage us, that silently just tear us up inside, and no one knows about it, and we just grow old with it. And as I've stated multiple times before, we just get great at wearing the mask. No one should ever get good or great at wearing a mask. We should always have an outlet of someone to talk to. And this is what ends up happening. You grew up broken or damaged, and the other person grows up broken and damaged. And then we get together and we become intimate with one another. And in the midst of our brokenness, children are conceived. And then we can only give them what we have. We give them our brokenness, and now they're raised in the same broken home that we were raised in, and the cycle just continues. Or worse, because we get away from our family dynamic, we get away from what was, and the family no longer talks to one another, and we don't know our siblings anymore because we grow out of contact. We become alienated from our family members, and now brothers and sisters aren't talking together anymore. Mothers and daughters and fathers and sons, we're not talking anymore. No one shows up to family reunions. No one shows up to Christmas holidays or Thanksgiving holidays. So now the children don't know each other. First cousins and second cousins don't know each other anymore. There's no clue that I have a first cousin or I have a second cousin. There's no clue that I even have a brother. I have a young brother or young sister that I never met. So now we meet socially. We meet socially and we meet each other, and now because we don't know that we're related, we end up in a relationship together and then we find out later. So many things happen because the foundation is not solid. The foundation is not what it used to be. The foundation is broken, is shaky, and that means every story, every floor that we attempt to build on that broken foundation is at risk. Our family relationships, our relationship with our parents, our siblings, our uncles, our aunts, those relationships shape or prepare us for every relationship we'll ever be in. whether that be a personal relationship or a professional relationship. Everything we learn from home. Everything. Everything we learn from home. Whether that's how to love, how to be selfish, how to be selfless, how to care about others, how to care about only ourselves. Whether you're in a house 18 years straight or whether you're in a foster home that you have to change once a month. Everything you learn, good, bad, or indifferent, we learn from home. And that propels us to deal with our relationships in the future. Whether you feel like it's okay to be vulnerable with anybody, or whether that you need to carry a wall with you everywhere you go. That's why so many people, when they get into intimate relationships and it doesn't go well, and someone does something and it hurts us, we think the damage happened right then and there in that relationship, when in actuality, what that relationship did was uncovered something that was never healed from in our childhood, in our home. They scratched the scab of something that we thought was okay, but it wasn't because it never healed properly. This is something that is never discussed, so when someone does finally open it up and talk about it, it makes it seem like that person is out of place. But these are things that happen on a daily basis with so many people, and they're not even aware about it because they've grown with it. They're not even aware that it's there. They're not even aware that the problem is this. As I stated earlier, my name is Malachi Love, and I am with Anointed Minds Holistic Health and Wellness. And what we do is we help individuals just like you heal. Individuals and family members and families heal from past emotional pains and brokenness. Some shape, form, or fashion, those relationships that you built with your family members influenced you in such a way to that is why you deal with the relationships that you have today the way you do. We help those people heal so that we can get back to the family dynamic and shape it to be what it once was. A solid foundation for everything else to come. The things that we see when we step out of our houses every day, for the most part, we don't like it. That can be laid at the foundation of the family structure. What you see is directly connected to the family structure. So if we're ever going to get better as a society, as a nation, as a city, as a community, as a state, as a world, if we're ever going to get better, it has to start with the rediscovery of family. It has to be done through the family restructuring, the family dynamic, so that we can all get back to our pure, happy, authentic, and purposeful selves. Everything starts and finishes with the family. So if there's anyone that you know that may be struggling in some of these areas, that may be stuck, they're moving around, they have so much movement, but they don't feel like they're going anywhere. You wake up every day dealing with the same old thing. I would love to help. How can I help? How can I help? What can we do to get better and become better, stronger than we were yesterday? There's a link in this description, in this video, to where you can set up an appointment and we can talk about it. Or you can visit me on my webpage, or you can email me at anointedminds@gmail.com. Contact me by phone. I put all that in the description. But like I said, if there's going to be any hope of a better tomorrow, it's not about who we elect as president or our local or state or government officials. We've had 44 elections. We've had 44, 45 different presidents, and the family still hasn't changed. No matter who you vote for as governor, as mayor, as Congress, has it changed the family dynamic any? let's start today. Let's make a change for the better today. I thank everybody for your patience and for taking the time to listen to me. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their wonderful Wednesday, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.